Happy Wednesday, dreamers. This last weekend I attended DCYC. That stands for the Discipleship Catholic Youth Conference. It's put on by the Diocese of Tulsa in Oklahoma, and it's a growing conference year after year to the point that it's no longer just a diocesan event, but something that, neighboring dioceses send their youth to as well. So context for this video. I was volunteering at a conference, and there are some stories that I would like to share with you. Yes. Story number 1. Problems with coffee. So I was volunteering at this conference, and my responsibilities included mostly maintaining coffee levels, because coffee is important. So maintaining coffee levels should be a pretty simple process. Like, we had 6 coffee urns, and just, keep them brewed and rotate them so that people always have their coffee. But with all good things that are supposed to go well, there's just always problems in life. Life is beautiful. I show up at the conference, and the night before, the coffee urns had already been filled with the water and the coffee grounds for the first batch of coffee. And so all I needed to do was plug the coffee urns into the wall. And it was real simple. Just, plug it into the wall and plug it into the wall, and then voila, the coffee station is on its way. So I did that, and it was great. I went for a little walk, and then I came back, and the coffee urns were all off. That's strange, because they were definitely on when I left. What I learned was that these 6 coffee urns had tripped the breaker. Actually, 5 coffee urns. One of them was broken, so instead of 6, we had 5. But at any rate, the breaker was tripped, and so we had to reset the breaker. So I found some help, and we did that, and then plugged all the urns back in again, and tripped the breaker again. It was beautiful. So of course, this is a race against time, because people are expecting coffee soon. People want their coffee in the morning, right? So I take 2 of the coffee urns, and I move them over to the side wall, and I plug them into the wall. Great. At least we have, a couple coffee urns going. And that worked out, right? Because this is a separate circuit, and so that circuit was not tripped, and so those coffee urns were brewing. It was fantastic. But at this point, I couldn't find somebody to help me reset the breaker for the original setup. So I have 3 urns that should be brewing coffee that are not yet. So I find another outlet around the corner of the side setup. And I wonder, is this going to be on the same circuit as this new setup that I have? And so I had a dilemma. Do I move these coffee urns over or not? And I decided, let's do it. And so I did, and I tripped the breaker. So that's what I get for taking risks, everybody. So I find someone to help me reset the breakers, because right now I have no electricity to work with. We reset the breakers. That's great. Those 2 are going. The other ones that I moved over there, I moved back to the center, and then I'm able to start 4 coffee urns to be brewing at once. Not ideal, perhaps, but we can make that work. Story number 2. So I tend to put my foot in my mouth a lot. That's why I YouTube, because I can edit out those parts where I put my foot in my mouth. So, the story. A good friend of mine had come from Stillwater, Oklahoma, taking care of some kids who were attending the conference. And on this day, I don't know if you've heard this news, Stillwater, Oklahoma was having a homecoming, and there was a drunk driver who drove into some people at homecoming. It was very tragic news, of course. The last numbers that I've heard were 4 people died and 26 were injured, but those numbers might have changed. And so my friend Sarah told me about this and said, hey, can you pray for Stillwater? Yes, of course. Later on that day when I saw her again, I wanted to ask her how everyone was doing. But instead of saying, how is everyone doing, I said, how is everyone dying? Oh, I can't believe I said that. It was so bad. It was so bad. The look of horror that I could feel come across my face. Oh, I'm so sorry, Sarah. I'm so sorry. But Sarah is a gem, and she took it really well. And she knew that it was just a slip of the tongue. And she said, oh yeah, everyone's doing okay. But of course, she gave me a hard time about it later. That all being said, if you have a moment, pray for Stillwater and everyone involved in that tragedy. Story number 3. So a little more context for this conference. There were a few music groups that were coming to sing for us. So singing it for us at the conference were I Am They, Jon Guerra, Hannah Kerr, and Matt Maher. Insert last but not least in that phrase right before the last. Matt Maher being as famous as he is, I didn't really expect to have much interaction with him, and so I didn't really seek him out. But I did get a tiny itty bit. At one point, since I was volunteering, somebody told me to go guard the parking lot because people do that. I later found out that we weren't supposed to be guarding the parking lot. That was just miscommunication. So I was out there with another guy. I think his name was Brendan. Hello, Brendan. Was that you? Let me know if I got that name wrong. Let me know. And there was a car coming in, and so, what do I do when I see cars coming up and I don't have anything better to do? Well, of course, I'm going to salute the car. So I salute, like this. So I see the driver, and she kind of smiles. And then I look in shotgun, and it was Matt Maher. And I was like, wow, I just saluted Matt Maher. And he laughed. Thank you very much. At a certain point, I was walking by some tables, and there were, tables promoting the specific musical artists. So you could buy CDs and t-shirts and those sorts of things. And specifically at the table for Hannah Kerr, there was a volunteer who was running that table. And so I teased her a little bit and said, hey, are you Hannah Kerr? And she said, no, everyone's been asking me that. And so I teased her more about that, and it was fun. Nonetheless, in this conversation with this lady, whose name is Sarah, a different Sarah, by the way, the idea came up, why don't I introduce myself to these small-time artists? Because wouldn't it be really cool to, well, interview them on my YouTube channel? Oh my gosh, that's such a great idea. Let's do it. So I wasn't sure if I was going to get an opportunity to meet these different artists face to face. And so I decided to start, writing a note. Hey, just in case I don't get to meet you face to face, here's my pitch. Voila. And I was doing that, writing a note on the I am they table. And then there was this man that walked up behind the I am they table. And I looked up and said, hey, are you I am they? And he said, yes. And I said, whoa, I was just about to write a note to you. And so then we talked. His name was Justin, and he's really cool. And so there were similar stories with Jon Guerra and with Hannah Kerr. Jon Guerra gave me a card and told me to message him on Facebook because he checks his Facebook messages. And Hannah Kerr and I talked at length too. And Hannah Kerr was so extremely sweet. Oh my goodness. She's an up-and-coming musical artist with so much talent. And she just kept on doling out all these compliments. It made me feel so special and awesome. Thanks for that, Hannah. So stay tuned. Very possibly one of these encounters will indeed lead to a Skype interview, which I will share with all of you. All right. Wow. I think this is going to be a much longer video than I had intended. Thank you for sticking with me. Couple real quick news items. Yes, I still have the emotional chastity debate in mind and how we're going to resolve that. Stay tuned. Also, I now have 90 subscribers. I'm so excited. Thank you guys. And that's almost 100, which is a huge milestone. Once I reach 100 subscribers, I'm going to celebrate by running for 100 minutes, and I'll document that. I'm sure it'll be a grand old time. All right. I think that's all. So, y'all have a great week, and I will see you next Wednesday. God bless and ciao.